Hi, everybody. It's 6:30, so let's get started. Please feel free to take any food or drink to your seat and put the cell phones on vibrate. And we're going to get started. Welcome to all our webcast viewers. We are webcasting for the first time ever, the meeting. So for those who couldn't make it, thanks. No easy feat, but it's on our YouTube channel. I want to welcome you. I'm Julie Walker. I'm the new president of the New York Association of Black Journalists for 2016 and 2017. And a little later, you're going to meet the new board members that are here as well. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank New York Public Radio for hosting us, for giving us the space, giving us the wonderful food, the wonderful beverages, everything that they've done for us. It's really great to be here. When we picked this date back in November, we weren't thinking that it was also going to be the last State of the Union. So sorry for that, but everybody can watch it on the internet at their leisure when they get home. So thank you. Everybody can listen on WNYC on their way home. But if you're on the subway, don't expect to get the internet. Okay. So I do love listening to WNYC, and I have to thank WNYC because it was my first New York City radio job. And I was a fill-in freelancer here doing a lot of different things. So, and I loved working here, and I love the product that they put out. I love the programming that they have. It's really spectacular. And you're going to hear all about that because I'm going to introduce you to Brenda Williams-Butts. She's the Vice President of Recruitment, Diversity, and Inclusion for New York Public Radio. And she's going to come up and introduce her crew and tell you all about her company and answer some questions a little later on as well.
Thank you, Julie. So welcome, everyone, and good evening. I first want to thank Michael Finney, who I'm not sure if he's here, but I definitely want to thank him, Julie Walker, and Lee Hill, who's the managing editor of WNYC.org's website, because without them, this meeting would not be happening. So I want to give them a thank. Let's give them a hand. So, as most of you know from the invitation that was sent out, I was recently appointed Vice President of Recruitment, Diversity, and Inclusion. And this may be a new role, but for me, this is a natural progression, as diversity and inclusion has always been a central part of my work, and in expanding the station's reach, cultivating new voices, and building lasting partnerships. This appointment was deliberate, and we are cognizant of the fact that we can always do better and be more inclusive. So that's why this role was created, to help us develop new pipelines for diverse talent, guests, and content that ensures our conversation include the critical voices and perspectives needed to be truly meaningful agents of change. One of the major goals of the new Diversity and Inclusion Division is to facilitate and build strong, lasting partnerships between New York Public Radio and diverse industry professionals, professional networks like you guys. So we're excited about hosting this event, and we hope that this is the first of many events like this one. I hope you had a chance to meet some of our colleagues here at the reception. If you haven't, hopefully there'll be some time at the end. But in the room, I want to recognize a few people. Karen Frillman, if you guys will stand up when I call your name, and if I don't call your name, please stand up too. Karen Frillman is our enterprise editor in the newsroom. Susie Lichtenberg is our executive producer of Radiolab's new show about the Supreme Court. Ask her about that. And Donna Topinski, probably said that wrong, sorry. She is my boss, and she's the Chief Human Resource Officer, as well as Terrence McKnight, who is the host of WQXR. We have Andrew Mambo in the room, who is working with Radio Rookies. And of course, you'll meet, and we have Emily Botein, who's also an executive producer, and other folks who are in the room, and you should make sure you meet them. You'll meet Jim, Jamie, and Rebecca. shortly. So I want you all to make sure you connect with people, get business cards, please exchange them. We want to keep in touch with you. As everyone know, this is the month that we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We have 2 events that I would like to invite you to be our guests. The first event is going to be right here in the green space this Thursday. It's an event that we call Movement. That's a celebration honoring Dr. King. This event features live performances and conversation with a range of artists whose work has been influenced by the legacy of Dr. King. The event starts at 7 p.m. If you'd like to come, please let me know. Our second event is our signature event, and that event is our 10th anniversary, and the event is at the Apollo Theater. Our title is Race and Privilege, Exploring MLK's Two Americas. WNYC's Peabody Award-winning hosts Brian Lair and Jamie Floyd will moderate an open and honest discussion on disparity in America, looking at the persistence of institutional racism and how individuals can combat racism every day on multiple fronts. If you're interested, as I mentioned, please see me. And if you're interested in covering the event, I encourage you to see David Coltrane, and he's right over there. I want to leave you with a quote by Dr. King that I think is appropriate, which comes from August 1963, mere months before the Civil Rights Act was passed. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech at the historical March on Washington. He said, "We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges." Again, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And now let me turn it over to Jim Schachter, Vice President of News.
Thanks, Brenda. Welcome, everybody. Boy, fierce urgency of now. Dr. King was a journalist. We didn't know it, but that's what we do, too. And I'm so glad to hear you invoke that phrase. I was asked very briefly to in welcoming you, say a couple words about why why we think at WNYC and New York Public Radio that diversity is so important, which seems a little bit like preaching to the choir, but the obvious answer to me is because we can't do our jobs as journalists without it. There is a world of nuanced things to say about this. Some of my colleagues will say, "Jim, you're unlikely to say any nuanced things about anything." But basically, if you don't know what's going on and you don't understand language and actions and signals and you don't know how to communicate with people because you are operating in a bubble of homogeneity, then you can't do your job as a journalist. Your curiosity as a news organization is inevitably going to be limited by the life experience and perspectives of the people in your organization. So you'd better do everything in your power to minimize those limits. That's why this is also important. And I think we understand that here, and I think we try to do our best in hiring, in our coverage, in how we talk among ourselves and how we talk with our audience. But now I'm quoting Brenda as opposed to Dr. King, we can always do better. We have to always do better, and we have to do better in big things and in small things. In big things like a project that Karen is currently leading, how to tell the story of the whirlwind of change that a real estate boom is inflicting on Brooklyn, every word you choose, do you call it gentrification or what, is so critical to telling the story well and to listening to the people who have stories to tell. And in things small, like my colleague Rebecca, who I'll introduce in a second, her email yesterday pointing out as we were out collecting Vox on the street about David Bowie's death, she sent an email to everybody that said, you know, black people like Bowie too, which I believe we had more or less overlooked in our collection of us, you know, changes. I'm sorry? Yeah, Bowie liked black people too. That's an excellent point. He had excellent taste in black people. So, I hope that our welcoming you here is and spending some time together tonight is a way of advancing that cause of continually trying to do this job better. So now let me introduce the folks who are going to come up onto the stage and talk a bit. I think if I understand that their topic for 10 or 12 minutes is really about how an awareness of race permeates their work, honestly. Jamie Floyd is the local host of All Things Considered on WNYC 4 to 8 every night. You may ask, what is she doing here? Well, we made an exception for tonight. Jamie is a New Yorker by birth. She was raised listening to WNYC on the Lower East Side. She has like the great resume of all time. She went to UC Berkeley for law school. She was a White House fellow. She was a public defender in San Francisco. And now she's slumming at WNYC, more or less, after interviewing people who range from Myrlie Evers Williams to Rod Blagojevich, and I believe that's an entire spectrum of people. Rebecca Carroll is the producer working here on a special year-long project that we have raised the money for and organized to do, trying to lead through WNYC's platform some very complicated, hard conversations about race. She's working with Karen currently on this project about race and real estate in Brooklyn. She has a BA in Black Literature and Literary Journalism from Hampshire College and was a W.B. Du Bois Fellow at Harvard. She also can drop a few bold-faced names. She worked for Charlie Rose, but she also worked for Henry Louis Gates. And we are thrilled that Rebecca and Jamie joined us in the past 8 months or so between them. And I'm glad that we can welcome them to the stage to talk to each other and then with you. So let's bring them up on stage.
Hello. We hardly need this.
Yeah. Oh, look at you with your little
My little device.
electronic device. I still have the.
Thank you, Jim, for that generous introduction. And thank you all for being here. My little device, of course, decides not to function. Technology. So I want to, of course, thank Brenda for bringing us all together and for beginning what I hope will be a continuing partnership in this room and in this city, and inviting us all to be here together and starting us on a path of togetherness. Rebecca and I thought we would continue this conversation by sharing with you 3 aspects of our lives: the professional, the political, and the personal cultural aspects of our lives. Really speaking honestly in this room with all of you about these facets of who we are, only to open up the conversation to you so that we can then begin a dialogue. So first to you, Rebecca, with a question about the professional. Why are you here? That's my question, really. I mean, Jim explained to us what you're doing
You're not going
here.
to set that up at all? You're just
No,
gonna
I'm
say
not. I'm
why?
not. I
Okay.
don't think I need to. I feel we've connected. We've bonded. We sit in the same newsroom. I feel her energy coming in my direction, And so Jim gave you a nice introduction, but I want you to tell us why you're here. Why are you at WNYC? What's your purpose in public radio? Why are you here?
Not a very big question, really. I mean, I like to say I've been in this game making rap tunes, long as Honey's been wearing Sassoons. I've been in this industry for a very long time, and I've had, a range of experiences that almost always involve race, and as it turns out, that is part of my work. I've written extensively on the subject. I have lived the subject, but I had recently taken some time off, a year to be exact, to really reflect on what this industry means to me. And so when this opportunity came up, which was presented to me as a producer, which kind of brings together a lot of my skill set. I have written, I have produced, I have hosted, I have worked in television and film and online. So it was nice to sort of think about it as a producer, but then to think about having the opportunity and the autonomy to really look at race in a focused way. It was sort of like, well, let's just call this what it is. That's fantastic. In every other job I had, it was kind of like the underlying thing. Like I was the race expert, unspoken, right? But this was like, this is what it is. You're going to look at this issue. It's going to be how you see it through your lens. And I really, at a time when our most beloved public intellectual is Ta-Nehisi Coates, when the most powerful social justice movement is Black Lives Matter, at a time when the most present social media presence is Black Twitter, I saw it as an opportunity to make this time not just a moment or a movement, though the movement will happen if we do it right, but to really be, a guiding force on a paradigm shift. And who better to do that than New York City and WNYC? That's why I'm here. Okay, now I get to ask you.
That is why she's here. And you will have an opportunity to follow up on that. So we're going to keep this tight so that we can get to your questions as well.
Okay, so you covered the OJ trial 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
And you're also producing a documentary on OJ. And next month, the highly anticipated miniseries American Crime will air on FX. Why has this story, why does it continue to fascinate? Why does it continue to resonate? And what does it tell us about race in America then and now?
Can you believe that was 20 years ago? We're still talking about OJ? All right. Now, first of all, I am not producing this documentary.
Oh.
Ezra Edelman, who is an Oscar-winning documentarian who works on sports stories. So he always works on stories that are about the intersection of sports and race for the most part. He is making that documentary. I'm just consulting. I was dragged in, kicking and screaming. I think the reason first of all, there's the mystery of it. Human beings, we cannot stand a story that we do not have the answer to. That's number one. Even putting aside the race question, there's that factor. But there is the race question. And when it comes to that O.J. Simpson story, there are unresolved, deeply painful for the American public issues of race and gender. Because let's remember, there were, when that story unfolded, issues of what went on in that household between O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson was her surname, even though they've tried to say her name is Nicole Brown. And those continue to be deeply unresolved. So that when we get to the Zimmerman trial 20 years later, Trayvon Martin, we have the same deep fissure in the public opinion reaction to that case. And so when people say to me, what has changed since the O.J. Simpson trial? It breaks my heart to have to say, not a hell of a lot. And I could go on now for another 20 minutes or 20 years about the O.J. Simpson case, and I won't, But I think that's why it continued. We can talk about it more if anybody wants to, either in the Q&A or afterwards, milling about. But I think that's why it continues to resonate, because there are so many things that are unresolved in the fact pattern and in the larger socio, not so much economic, but the socio-political questions that the case dug up. And really, it's not just that case. There's case after case after case after case. I got into this business to talk about the professional. I got into law because I cared about justice. You know, I was born in 1964, 10 years after Brown versus Board. And my parents had cut out the clipping of the lawyers, Thurgood Marshall and the other team of lawyers on the courthouse steps and put it in a frame on the bookshelf. And so I grew up thinking those lawyers were smiling from me. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna become like those lawyers. I'm gonna be one of those lawyers and fight for justice. And I became a journalist because I was tired of seeing black men paraded across the screen on the nightly news, local news, by the way. And I'm going to change that by being a journalist and covering black men black men we're talking about, in a different way. So I had a reason for becoming a lawyer. The O.J. Simpson trial took over that took, for a year, that was what we did in journalism. That became journalism for a year. And when you get into journalism, you start to realize we don't have a whole lot of control over what we're doing in commercial journalism. Other factors control what we're doing in commercial journalism, which is why I'm here at WNYC. Okay, enough said about that.
You're up. You're next.
Oh, I'm up. Right,
Yeah.
I'm up. Oh, right, I'm up. Okay, so then we're moving on. That's the professional. We're going to move on now to the political/cultural. And I'm gonna ask Rebecca a question about something she wrote, because she's a brilliant writer and she's written much. And if you've not already done so, but I think you probably have because you've done your homework, you wrote in the New Republic in a piece that received a lot of attention at the time, quote, "At nearly every job I have ever had, I have encountered some sort of racial incident, either personally directed at me or witnessed by me as a third party." And just for some context, Rebecca has been working in newsrooms at that time 28 years, now about 30 years, since she was 28 years old. So a good long time. And she said earlier, in broadcast, in print, but she's really worked across all platforms, right?
Yeah.
And that means you've seen a lot in terms of racism. But then she writes in the article, I love media and I'm not leaving the industry for good. So my question for you is, why do you love this business? Why do you love media? You're young, you're gifted, you could do a whole lot of, because I just said she's been doing
ancient.
She's ancient.
Just that I was ancient.
You could do a lot of things. What keeps you in it? Why stay?
Well, it's sort of like the question of why do you live in New York? Because I live in New York. Like, where else would I live? But media is like a place where everything, every voice, every art, every idea, every moment comes together. It's what's happening in real time, what's happening in history, it's what's happening in the future. It's where everything comes together. And that is what I want to be part of, and that is how I want to live, and that is what I want to pass on to my son. That is, that you are in the present, but you are taking in all of these different kinds of voices and visions and languages, and there's nowhere else that what is happening in culture is where you can really bear witness to what's happening in culture.
So is that what you feel you're doing as a journalist and as a writer? You're bearing witness?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm bearing witness, and I'm also becoming, more of who I am. I mean, I think that if we're lucky, we choose a job or a field or an industry that helps us to become more of who we are until we're done being who we are, and we are, that's the end of the life. But I don't think you stop individuating. I don't think you stop, taking in things that will help broaden your scope and progress your thinking and grow your imagination. And to me, media is where that happens.
Okay, do you want to do the kid
Yep.
thing, or should I do the kid thing?
You can do the kid thing.
Okay.
Do we want to go off book here?
We could go off book because
Okay.
you just talked about, you mentioned child. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to ask about is another beautiful piece she wrote. This one is so moving because if you look this up, you'll see a lovely picture of Rebecca as a child with her parents, which was just lovely. And I wanted to have it up here, but I couldn't get it together. But the name of the piece is fabulous. Mom, why is everyone here white? Colon, what my son knows about race that I never did. And it's really about the homogeneity of the community in which you grew up. And the way in which you really saw it clearly for the first time through the eyes of your son. So my question for you is, what have you learned from your son that informs you in your work, if anything?
So just to give a little context, I was adopted into a white family and raised in an all-white town, and could not get out quickly enough. But that piece was referred to an experience that happened 3 or 4 years ago. My son is now 10. He was probably 6 then or 7, and we were out to breakfast at a local place with my parents, and he literally leaned into me and said, "Mom, why is everyone white here?" And it was his first awakening, really, of the fact that he's growing up in a city surrounded by black and brown folks, and that his mom, who is black, grew up in this all white sterilized community. It was such a it was really a trenchant moment because
And he you can hear my
Yeah.
neighbor. He asks it in a factual way.
Yeah.
Not in a judgmental way.
Yeah.
It's just a question.
So a couple of things happened there, which was, one, I felt very proud as a parent that he was able to call that out and feel like there was something wrong with that that's not the environment that he wanted to be in. And two, really realizing that, I mean, he was testifying for me that at his age, that's all I knew. And that I was internalizing that at that time. And I've been writing about that since. But he really validated that experience for me, that it really did matter, that it wasn't just about, I mean, we can get into a whole other conversation about interracial adoption, but, that love will conquer all and all that sort of thing. But I really felt that everybody was white around me at that time, but I didn't have anybody who I could bounce that off of. So I would say what he has taught me is that my experience is valid, and that what I have been writing about all this time is real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Should I ask you another question?
Sure. I do want to
We
say,
should get questions.
before you ask the last question, her writing on adoption is beautiful. We don't have time for it here because we just can't keep going because we want to get to your questions. But I did want to work that in. Maybe we'll do a whole nother green space event on adoption.
Okay. Now I think we have time for one more.
Okay, go,
should I
go,
do,
go.
Should
I'll
I
do-
do
I'll
the
do a
personal
quick-
or the political cultural?
Oh my gosh, we have 2 more on there that we didn't
Yeah,
get to?
you just asked 3.
Do the personal because it's
Okay.
sweeter, I think.
Okay.
I don't know quite
So,
what it is.
As a black mother who works in media, how do you encourage and or hope for your children to consume and use the media, especially with the proliferation of ways it can be
I
consumed
wish they put down the damn screens.
and
Put
the
those
increased
screens down.
circulation of visual coverage in which black people are being killed?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, this is easy. It's not easy. The answer isn't easy, but I can do it quickly. And that is I try to teach them to be skeptical consumers of media. Even though I'm in media, I want them to consume a wide variety of media and to be skeptical and critical consumers of media. And I guess with a parent in media, my son is so cynical, I think I've overdone it. But I do try to get them, skepticism is healthy. And so I try and encourage that. And I'll try and just stop right there so we can get to your comments, questions. And we're going to bring up the others, aren't we? Aren't Jim and Brenda, aren't you going to come back up?
Oh, good. Yay.
That was good. That
Yay,
was a
that was
short
great.
last answer. Beautiful.
You're the best.
I don't like an empty chair next to me.
Well, I'm going to slip away at 7:15, and then you can make a case about the empty chair next to you. Okay.
Or talk to it.
Or talk to it. Like, pretend I'm Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Ricardo, do we have a wireless?
Do we have questions?
We have a
I'm
wireless mic.
assuming
Okay,
someone, great. I felt this audience was warmed up. I like Brooklyn College. Go for it.
My mother's alma mater.
There's a mic right there. 'cause we're-
If you feel you need it.
For the
Well, it's a
webcast,
live
for the
webcast.
Oh,
So,
yes,
you
okay,
know.
good.
Oh, thank you. Is it working?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to be representative of Brooklyn College, journalism major and television radio. I have a question for everybody. It's kind of political and personal. With all the incidents going on with the police going around shooting innocent black people for no reason, do you think that the incidents from OJ, Trayvon Martin, and Rodney King has anything to do with what's going on in today with the cops targeting us for no reason and getting off because they are police and they think they're above the law? Could that be? It's for everybody because I think it's personal and political.
What do you think first, and then we can respond?
I think we need to do a whole new overhaul with the justice system, make cops accountable for their actions, from lying on police reports to going around killing innocent people. Prime example, the young lady that was killed in the prison, the cop lied and said that she attacked him, and we saw in the video that didn't happen. So these video cameras that are showing proof, the cops are still lying. So, and I think that now that we have the President Obama, I think he needs to step in and do something and make the law be accountable for the actions, because it's getting out of hand right now. Innocent young children are dying for no reason.
And so is that a commentary, or do you have a specific question?
Well, it's a question. I think, do you think the OJ, Rodney King, and Zimmerman situations led up to this what's going on right now by these cops, because people are taking the law into their own hands instead of letting the justice system take control?
Go ahead.
In I don't want to say our film, in the film I'm consulting on, the filmmaker is trying to draw a continuum going back to Watts in Los Angeles, Rodney King, OJ, all the way up to the present. And his hypothesis, his theory, he's positing that it's all connected. And I would say, and now I'm stepping away from the filmmaker because I don't want to project my theory onto his film, but I believe it's all connected, going all the way back to Jim Crow, and I would say even to slavery. I don't think we have ever grappled honestly as a nation with the ugly legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. And until we do, we are going to continue to have a crisis in this country with race, racism, and sometimes it manifests in our police community relations. Now, that doesn't mean that every time we have an encounter between communities of color and law enforcement, the activities of law enforcement are unjustified, because the facts are different in every case, and we do have to take these on a case-by-case basis. But I think we're seeing flare-ups in these cases and increased tensions between communities of color and law enforcement because we're not having an honest conversation in this country about that legacy. That's my view.
It's a beautiful answer.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the award we won.
Oh.
We just won.
I think we've won some awards. What I would say is, what is journalists' role in the situation that you just described? I think it breaks down to several parts, but among them is we're big on accountability reporting at WNYC, and our our investigative reporter Robert Lewis and our data news team, in particular a guy named Noah Veltman, have put a lot of work ever since pretty much the day after Eric Garner died into looking at police misconduct, police abuse of power. It's great that they won some awards for it, including a DuPont Award that they'll get at Columbia next week. But more important is that they've unleashed a very important discussion in New York City, so that when the tennis player was tackled outside his hotel, it was WNYC's reporting that made clear that the cop who tackled him had a long track record of aggressiveness. That was what we knew.
Because that reporting had already been done in the months before that incident
Right.
occurred.
And
When
we're
James
sticking
Blake-
to it.
Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, we need to do that kind of work, and we need to make sure that we are on all of our news platforms, on the Brian Lehrer Show, in this space, on the radio, talking about these topics a lot.
And the answer I just gave is my personal answer. I'm not speaking for WNYC. I'm giving you my answer as a lawyer. I was trained as a lawyer. I practiced for 10 years as a criminal defense attorney. I taught law. I taught criminal law and First Amendment law. So I'm giving you my answer as a lawyer, as a citizen, as an African American. I'm not giving you my answer as a journalist at WNYC. I'm now speaking to you as a human being who feels your pain sitting across right here, New Yorker to New Yorker. But I do agree with Jim that the reporting and the accountability is what keeps the system honest. And journalists are really that fourth branch of the government that keeps the other three honest, because we're shining a light on those systems that can sometimes lose sight of the way that democracy is supposed to work.
We have a question right here.
Yes, good evening. My name is Victor Gutierrez, president of the American Dream Service Center in the Bronx, home of Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor and the home of hip hop. On the eve of President
mention of the
Obama's,
Yankees.
there you go, and of course, 27 World Championships for the New York Yankees. That's another story. And we love Met fans too, so that's okay.
It's all good.
New York, one love. There you go. On the eve of President Obama's State of the Union, and he being a representative that broke the glass ceiling as how high we can go as a people of color, what would you do as panelists now to get the message out to the people that the one label that we have doesn't no longer exist, because together we are the majority. We're not the minority anymore. So how do you get that message out to the people as a journalist, as a media group? How do you get the message out? We don't need to beg. We together can ask and demand. So how would you get the message out?
I think you have to do really, really comprehensive and dogged efforts at infiltrating every possible medium or platform that you have access to, not just to bang down the door and say we're here, we're here, we're here, but to start to really integrate, for lack of a better word, our presence in a way that is very natural, that is very meant to be, that is very not shocking. And there's a sort of a low-level demand there, and also I think it's important that we, as the kind of primary communicators of our experience, to let folks who don't know about our experience, who are open and welcoming to us in the space, to say you're going to need to defer a little bit to what we are saying and how we are coming into this space. It has to be both ways. It has to be, the dynamics have to change so that when we say, this is what my experience dictates in terms of my reaction to certain things, you are not defensive and you are not immediately like, oh, well, that's not going to work for me and I'm not this and I'm not that. But to sort of stand down a little bit, for there to be some deference, but that has to be both ways. And we have to continue with a sort of low-level, consistent demand that we are here not because we deserve it, but because we are breathing, you know?
I still believe very much in building coalitions. When I went to work for the Clinton administration, the other Clinton administration, it looked very much.
She's got a crystal ball.
Like it looked very much like America. That was what we said, and it did. It was very diverse. It felt good to be in a room that had people of all different ethnic groups, as many women as men, all different age groups, gay people, straight people, and everybody working toward a common purpose. And if we disagreed about how to get there, the common purpose being to make this the best country it could be, we at least all knew we were trying to get to that same place. And now it seems the country often, we're all so angry. Everybody's so angry. And we forget that we're all trying to get to that same place. Are we all trying to get to that same place? Where are you trying to get? What are you so angry about? And so that is always my common goal when I'm in a room. Now, sometimes I'm so angry, I kind of forget where I'm trying to go to. So that would be, I think, even though I agree with you in the majority, right? But I think if we can all work together, can't we all just get along? Remember when Rodney King said that?
Actually, we can't,
we,
actually.
No, right?
It's
We
not
can't.
We can't seem to get along. So that has always been my approach in the workplace, in the political setting, in the courtroom even. So that would be my answer to the question.
We don't have a lot of time because I want you guys to get to your meeting. So I'm going to take one more question from the lady behind you, sir, because she has the mic. So I have to
You're a woman.
default to her.
Sorry, I'll make it quick. Hi, this is going off of something that you said, Jamie. You mentioned that growing up,
I feel I know you. Have we met?
I went to a conference this year. I worked on
Yeah,
staff.
yeah,
I was
okay.
an intern.
Oh, yes, we did meet. I remember you.
Nice meeting you again. You said growing up, you only saw black men on TV for doing something bad, right? And
In the local news.
in the local news, correct. So that's kind of going off of that. Right now, I just graduated from University of Southern California. I'm at my first market at Fox News in Binghamton. It's a very white area.
I went to college there.
Oh, BU?
SUNY.
SUNY, okay.
Yeah, BU.
Now
Cool.
be you.
And it's like that. Anytime there is a press release, tweet, anything, like if I'm going through the show, do the rundown for the show, it's all, anytime there's a black person, it's associated with criminal crime or anything. If it's like a birthday or a memorial, it's an old white man. And it's that's just kind of how it is. That's kind of how it's been. I'm the only black reporter in the market right now. Right. So my thing is I'm young. People don't really, I've been there for 3 months. It's my first job, so they don't really necessarily take me as serious as I would like them to. But what do you kind of suggest for me where it's I want to put our stories out there, but there's only one black salon within 50 miles of the place, so it's not it's a, I guess, pressing issue for a lot of people because that's just how it's always been, so.
Well, I can talk to you afterwards. I've talked a lot up here, but he has run many newsrooms. So he has to leave soon, so I'm going to let him answer this question.
Oh, interesting.
And then we can speak. Well, because he's the guy who makes these decisions. We can give you some answers afterwards because we can stick around a little
Absolutely.
bit. But we should definitely give you some
So-
advice as well.
So the one thought I have is that to the degree that it is within your control to decide who you talk to for a story, you have that control, so use it. So put your back into developing a list of sources where you can, if the subject is the weather or the most banal thing, make it your business to find a person of color to have in your story. That's to make it the normative experience that people of color are appearing in stories that aren't about being people of color. And then I think I am not a huge fan of happy news, as my colleagues at WNYC, whose great feature ideas I say, oh, who cares, too, will tell you. But, you know, depending upon what the news diet of your newsroom is, just make it your business. That doesn't require you to be militant. It's just doing your job the way you want to do your job.
Good answer.
My thought.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, everyone.
Like I said, I have to leave, but I would love to hear from everybody who has an actual individual question. I'm just going to leave a stack of my cards here. My phone number and my email are on there, so please grab one later on.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Can everybody start to sit down again? And we're gonna continue with the meeting, and then we're gonna have time afterwards as well to chat. Okay, thanks. All right, thank you. It doesn't matter. I mean, there is no real middle. Can everybody? Are you taking notes on your phone? Yeah. you rock. I've written entire stories on my phone too. Well, just so we have kind of record.
Okay, so I'll just. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be talking. I'm good. So we're not gonna be talking. Yeah, so basically what we just
Right. To have something. So I just. Hey, can everybody just grab their food and their drink and sit down? We're going to start the NYABJ portion of the meeting. We've got a lot of exciting things. We're going to hear from the new board members. We're going to hear from filmmaker Warrington Hudlin. We got a lot going on. We're going to hear from our former parliamentarian who's here in another capacity. So feel free to get food and get drink, but if we could restart the meeting, that would be great. As many of you know, I'm Julie Walker. I am the new president of the New York Association of Black Journalists. The term, thank you, the term is 2 years. I'll just tell you that I'm with Associated Press. I work on the broadcast side for AP Radio. I also write on the side for AP, and I write on the side for The Root. So I have a connection to a lot of people here. I think it's all a little bit like 3 degrees of separation between everybody. But I wanted to give the other board members a chance to speak, and then we're going to talk about some upcoming events, and then we're going to answer some questions for you, and then we're going to bring Warrington up to talk about his new project. So I guess I'll start with our Vice President of Print, Aaron Morrison. He'll tell you about himself and what's going on.
All right. My name is Aaron Morrison. I am the Vice President of Print Digital for NYABJ. I currently work at the International Business Times here in New York. I cover social justice and diversity issues. I've been there for about a year. And this is actually my second time on the NYABJ board. I was previously the secretary of the chapter, and so I'm happy to continue my involvement. My job really as VP of Print and Digital is to just pay attention to that space, those opportunities that are out here in this market, and communicate that information to you all because, as we were talking about earlier, diversity is very important. I want to make sure that NYABJ members have, dibs on information about jobs that are coming up in our area. So if you hear about anything, let me know. Tweet me, email me. I can provide you with my contact information after the meeting. And I'm happy that you guys are all here. And I want to also thank New York Public Radio for amazing meeting so far. That kind of blew me away, the discussion we just had. So I'm very happy that this is our first meeting of the first month of the year. Thank you.
So I'm John Simons. I am very excited to be part of the Walker administration as treasurer, and basically, my job will be to make sure that that all the money coming in is able to fund all the great ideas that Julie has in store for us. And for anyone who's worried, I just want to make clear today that NYABJ's finances are completely separate from the finances of an ABJ, and that like I said, all the great ideas that Julie has in store will be able to go forward without any problems as long as I have something to do with it, I think. I am the enterprise editor at International Business Times. We are essentially a startup. IBT Media, if I can just explain who we are for just a minute. IBT Media is a small media company that purchased Newsweek a couple of years ago. And we have an online operation called International Business Times that is a digital news operation that is growing and hiring. So let's talk. We're looking to diversify. As a lot of news organizations are. So please talk to me, if not at this meeting, at the many others that I hope to see all of you at. That's it for me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Gillespie. I am the Deputy Secretary. I'm a hustler, baby. So basically, I'm a freelancer. I've done stuff for recently D.L. Hughley. I wrote blogs for he and the morning show guy, Ricky Smiley and Cat Williams. So I do a lot of random freelance stuff. Also, I do psychological content. I have a advanced degree in counseling psychology. So I'm interested with the Walker administration in putting together some educational programs, maybe some workshops, some mental workshops, because freelancing is a hard thing to do. And I was talking to someone earlier. You have to get prepared psychologically to go out there and be the best you can be. And sometimes those mental barriers can get in the way of finding the right job or career. So hopefully I can do some of those things, and I'm excited to be here and carry out the legacy of Mr. Feeney, who is not here at this moment. But yeah, that's it.
And we have some other board members who were not able to make it to this meeting. We have Carol Kelly, who's going to be our new parliamentarian, but she had a work commitment that she could not get out of. And we have Melissa Johnson, who was part of the board for the previous 2 years, and she's now going to be the secretary, and she's out of the country. We have some open positions. We have the open position of Vice President of Broadcast and of Deputy Treasurer. So if anyone is interested in either of those positions, you can email me at president@nyabj.org and we can discuss it. There are some requirements. One of the big requirements is that you must be a paid member of this chapter and of National. Those are not my requirements. Those are written into the bylaws for both us and for both NABJ. So you have to make that financial commitment. The rest we can discuss. So if you're interested in either position, all the different information is on our nyabj.org website, and it's also just email me at president@nyabj and we'll talk about it. Michael Feeney, who you mentioned, he's not here, but we have to give a big thank you to him because he really helped get this meeting off the ground. And Lee Hill? Hey, he really was the one who brought this to New York Public Radio for us to be here. And like Aaron said, that presentation was amazing. I thought it was so interesting. I tried to tweet a little bit about it and put it on our Facebook page. I do want us to be able to answer questions that you have now, and then after that, I want to turn it over to Warrington to give him 5 minutes to talk about his upcoming project. So maybe we can just answer any questions you have about the new board right now. If there's no questions, we're going to be talking about upcoming events after Warrington. So does anybody have any questions about the new board or anything? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Do you want to come up now and then? And when he finishes, we're going to take the stage back, okay? So do you want to just sit in my seat and I'm going to move over? Oh, okay.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here with you. See, you got the mic now. We saw each other at the Writers Guild Diversity event and invited me to talk about this project I'm doing. You guys, some of you know me as a filmmaker, but I'm also the vice chairman of the Museum of the Moving Image in Astoria, Queens. Who's been there before? There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So this first session, which I thought also was an amazing discussion, what I'm working on, what I came to tell you about, is something that's a direct segue. Well, you know as journalists, what's happening now in the United States is not dissimilar to what went on in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Now, my mentor, I'll share with you all, Harry Belafonte, did a TV special in 1967 for ABC television. It's called A Time for Laughter. And what Harry Belafonte did, he gathered all the working comedians who were of note to do this variety show. Red Fox, Dick Gregory, Moms Mabley, George Kirby, and a very young Richard Pryor. So this thing has not been on the screen for 50 years. I petitioned him. He's allowed me to show it to all of us on February 6th at the Museum of the Moving Image. But we're doing more than showing the film. I want to say what was happening then so parallels what's happening to us today. Following the screening, I'm gonna have a town hall discussion of working comedians whose comedy is rooted in using comedy as a tool to raise issues of human rights and social justice. So this is going to be a very interactive discussion. It's not just talk. So as journalists, it's really important for you guys to be there because it makes the conversation that much better. Of course, with comedians, there's going to be some funny in it too. So February 6th, in Astoria, Queens, our neighborhood, it's really going to be amazing. Our website's right there, movingimage.us. By the way, that photograph, don't be disturbed by it. That's Bert Williams. Who knows Bert Williams? Okay. He was the first African-American comedian of note. And even though he used blackface as a tool, he used that to advance issues of issues of equality and social justice. So it's going to be a dynamic discussion. It's going to be very, very entertaining. So February 6th, mark your calendars. I hope to see you all there. Thanks again. Thank you for inviting me.
Did anybody have a question about his event or his program?
Who's coming to it? That's what I'm talking about.
Were you?
1 to 5 in the afternoon. 20.
Are you giving a discount?
Absolutely. My mistake. 20% discount. You have cards, membership cards?
We don't have.
We work it out.
membership
We
cards,
can
but
set
we
up a
can
list.
Set up a
and
list.
Send
get
us your
you a
list, and you 20% off. Absolutely.
So we'll have
Guaranteed.
people RSVP to us, and then we'll send him the list for the.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
No, I'm going to put out a message on our Facebook page and our website to send names, and then we'll get it to.
Yeah. But if you're here tonight and you know you're going, please give your name tonight to Aaron, okay? So we're going to, Warrington is off in the corner there if you all have any questions. So we just have a couple of announcements. We want to bring back the NYABJ Awards. It's a very big task for us because we have to set up a website to accept submissions. In the past, everything was mailed into us, and now it's all has to be online. And so Brandon is going to be spearheading that effort. And if anyone is really good with internet and programming okay, so will you see Brandon afterwards and maybe you can help out with that? And are you also good with Eventbrite?
Yes, I'm an expert.
Okay, I'm gonna need your help I'm gonna talk about the next thing in a minute. But the awards is once we can get it online without having to pay people to do it. Once we can get it online, then you'll get a message as to when everything is due, and we're hopefully going to have everything either by the spring or at the latest in the fall. And the big thing about our awards is that it funds our high school journalism workshop. We're the only chapter that does this intense, several week-long high school journalism workshop, and so that's one of the big things that our awards ceremony funds. It's the next generation of Black journalists. On February 18th, we are putting together an affinity mixer. That'll be a mixer with all the various affinity groups, meaning the Hispanic journalists, the Asian journalists, all the journalists of color, and we're all getting together, and you'll get that announcement in an email as well. Members email, and if you're not a paid member, you'll just have to keep checking our Facebook and our NYABJ.org website to find out the information about that. And that's what I'd like you to help me on, so we can talk afterwards. Thank you for volunteering. We love volunteers, so if anybody has any ideas for any programming and wants to help spearhead them, one of us on the board will join with you and we could get that going. You could always send an email to membership@nyabj.org or to president@nyabj.org. And, we can put that up on the Facebook page, but we love doing programming, but we need help. We can't do it alone. Obviously, we're not getting paid. So we all, we really want to work for you, but we need your help in making things happen. The next event that I've set up is our general body meeting in March. That will be at CNN. After that, we'll need to have a general body meeting in May, in September, and in November. I need help. I need people who can get us places to have the meetings where we don't have to pay. If you're working for ABC News, you have space to host us. And you go to your diversity council and you let them know that the advantage of hosting us is that they'll get to make their presentation and they'll get a room full of black journalists. So please help us out. Try to help us by getting places to host us. As I said, we're going to CNN on March 2nd, but then we need a place for May, September, and November. And our bylaws state that we have to have 5 general body meetings a year. So we have to have these. So we enjoy having them, but the hard part is getting someone to host us. So please help us out with that if you can. And the other thing, oh, I'm sorry, I can't see. Go ahead. Do you want the microphone?
No,
Okay.
I don't need a microphone, but earlier I got a chance to speak. Frankie Crocker.
Chief Rocker.
There you go. But I just noticed, because I deal a lot with not-for-profits, with everything else. The NFL is a not-for-profit, and the CEO gets $23 million. So, just as a suggestion, you might get your board together and rework it so you may be able to do a lot of things and pay a lot of people. Rework the system that's already been established, as President Walker. I want to just make that suggestion.
I'm lost. I apologize.
I'm
lost.
Well, you asked for volunteers, but like I said earlier, you're the majority. Anybody and everybody will be glad to give you as much money as they can as an organization, but you need to just change the bylaws. And since you're the ruling party, you're not stuck to any rules and regulations. You can change it. That's what change is all about. That's all I'm saying, but it's a suggestion.
I think our parliamentarian,
Robert's Rules of Order says you can.
I think our parliamentarian actually needs to address that. Joe is actually stepping in as parliamentarian because Carol had a work thing that she could not get out of, but it's not that easy. So
I'll answer that just briefly. We do have bylaws. As a matter of fact, they're on the website for everybody to look at. We have bylaws. I should say first, I'm Joe Gray, former parliamentarian of NYABJ. So to answer your question, there are bylaws that are available on the NYABJ website. Every 2 years, there is a biennial review of the bylaws where we comb through each and everything, review them, make suggestions, and then put them before the body to vote on. And that was voted on actually this past May. So the next one is not going to come up for another couple of years. But it is a good suggestion to sort of keep in your hip pocket so that when there is a new bylaw review, the membership can submit that to that new bylaw review committee. So I hope that answers your question.
I think there's one thing that I kind of think I know where you're going. We do. I think this is probably with working for First Take and for the banquet.
Yeah.
The banquet is a huge project, and so sometimes we need someone to just shepherd the entire thing. So I think in the past we have paid someone to help us get the
sponsorship that you're talking
sponsorships
about.
and make sure the caterer is all set and the place is booked. So yes, we do contract out for some work, but I think that's that's not. We never do it in a way where we would financially benefit from
Right. No.
from doing something like that. So.
And this has always been somewhat of a volunteer organization. So when I say we want to help you, but you need to help us, I mean that it's very, we have a member, Julia, who's been very active in contacting some of these news organizations because she's worked at some of them. She knows people, so she's asking them, "Hey, do you want to host one of our meetings?" So when I say I need help, we need help, I'm saying, a lot of you are already in a news organization where you can ask, or someone who is, your best friend from J school is at such and such a place, you can ask them or something. So that's what I mean when I say we need help. We need volunteers, and it's not, it's not that time consuming, So, and finally, the other thing I'd like to mention is the NABJ convention. I think Aaron's going to put it up on the screen over there. You can go to the NABJ website, and all the information is there. If you are a member of both this local chapter and the national chapter, you get a discount. I believe it's $50 off. All the information is on that website. The event is August 3rd to 7th in DC. I always suggest that you start planning early for it because there is a cost involved. And but it's going to be exciting, especially since we have the presidential election coming up. Oftentimes the candidates come to our convention and speak, so it's really a great opportunity for journalists to attend that. So please check out the website because there's several deadlines coming up. There's the deadline to pay the early bird special and get the discount. There's the deadline if you want to present a workshop. And there's a deadline if you want to put your work in for an award. So, and all that information is there. At this point, before I take questions, I wanted to give Joe the opportunity to come up. He was our parliamentarian. He is now going to spearhead a committee to look at the possibility of bringing the national convention to New York, which would mean that we would be the host chapter, which is a huge deal, but it's also a huge undertaking. For years, National has said we can't go to New York. It's too expensive. Joe and I and many of us don't believe that to be the case. We believe that it can happen in New York, and it would be just a great opportunity for us to shine. So he's going to come up and talk about that. And we'll have to take a vote on it, actually.
Oh, wow, I get center stage. Hello again, everybody. I'm Joe Gray, a former parliamentarian of NYBJ. I'm also managing editor of ebony.com, jetmag.com. And thank you. And as Julie was saying, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the possibility of a convention here in New York. Now, there is a process, and the first step in this is for you guys to say yes to it. The whole thing is what we would need to do is to form an ad hoc committee, as would be allowed in our bylaws. Now, first, let me give you a little bit of history with a little bit of time I have. Last summer in Minneapolis at the convention, a few members went to the people who are now the current board members and talked about the possibility of returning the convention to New York. The last time we had a convention in New York City was 1995, so it's been quite a while, okay? Most of the boards felt that it was just not feasible not cost effective, and they did have good reasons behind not bringing the convention back to New York. But we felt that it was high time, and in doing a little bit of research, I lost my Wi-Fi connection, so I can't get the numbers for you. But there are 92,000 hotel rooms at any given time in New York City. It is a $1 billion industry. Other organizations have conventions in New York every single day of this year, subtract holidays. To us, there was no reason why NABJ couldn't bring that back. What we would have to do is convince National that it is feasible. In other words, lucrative. They don't want to come to a city unless they feel that it is something that can bring in revenue, and that's one of the ways that National brings in revenue. So what I'd like to do is, at this time, is make a motion as a member, not as parliamentarian, that we form an ad hoc feasibility committee of NYABJ members. And what the committee would do is formulate a study and deliver a report to the body at the May meeting that would say whether or not it is a feasible thing to have a convention here in New York. If that body votes it up at that time, then the next move would be to actually make a pitch to National, so actually, make our case to National for a convention. Now, National takes some time to make this decision, and also it would have to be for years out. So my proposal would actually be to have the convention in New York City by 2022. So it gives us time. It would give us time to plan, create committees, things like that. So again, I move that we form an ad hoc committee to study the feasibility of an NABJ convention here in New York City. And we would need to see a vote of hands of actually financial members. Now I'll give the floor back to Madam President to take the vote.
Okay, I second the motion. Can I second the motion as president still?
We should actually take a second from the floor.
Okay, Okay, now remember, only according to our bylaws, only paid members can vote, and we're not whipping out the list now, but I think you know who you are, so I hope you know who you are. You're a paid member of NYABJ, and you can vote. So how many for yes? You have to record the vote. Am I allowed to vote?
Yes,
Oh.
everybody can vote.
Okay. I just can't second it, but I can vote, okay? You taking count? Okay.
All right. That's about
14 or 5. How many did you get?
24.
Okay. And how many are against it? No one's against it? Okay. Does anybody have any, so the motion passes. Does anybody have any questions for Joe while he's up here about this and about, certainly you can see him afterwards if you want to be on his committee. I see a question in the back.
I have a question. Is Brooklyn being considered New York City?
Absolutely. In doing some of the homework on this, I found that Brooklyn actually might be a better option. There, I think, are going to be as many as 7 hotels built downtown Brooklyn by 2022. So it could really work to bring the NABJ convention to Brooklyn, because it'll be really a major city, a major destination by that time.
I see some more questions. I see John has a question, and I see Brooklyn College has a question, and I see I don't know your name. I'm just going off of what Jamie said.
Okay. Everybody likes Brooklyn College. Okay. Obviously, I haven't been there in a while. But no, I'm saying I love the school. Hello, Mr. Gray, how are you? Brooklyn College, yeah, we're a good school, but it's not for media. The Barclays Center would be a great place to hold it, because, I mean, to me, it's happening more than Madison Square Garden. We could have it there, and it's right downtown. You got everything in walking distance.
Right.
Yeah, all the trains stop there, so Barclays Center would be a great place to have it. I mean, by 2022, maybe the Nets will have a world championship, and then everybody gonna want to go there.
Maybe. All right. Well, the Barclays Center right now, the hotel proposals are not complete at Barclays Center, but that area is one of the places that they were considering building on major hotels. That's a place where we can consider. The only place in downtown Brooklyn right now that I think could hold a group our size is the Brooklyn Marriott, but I expect that to change.
I saw another hand up somewhere.
I think
No?
over in the corner.
Where is the national conference being held at over the next few years?
This year is in D.C. Next year in Detroit, and I do not know the other 2 years. Yeah, I believe New Orleans is one of the cities. But what all those chapters had to do with is the same thing we're doing. They actually had to make a pitch, and they had to campaign to nationals for it. and they actually like during one of the earlier conventions, it's announced and everything. Minneapolis had to campaign for it. DC had to campaign for it, so on and so forth. And the conventions tend to go around to certain cities, but what we want to do is prove that New York is a viable venue to bring the convention.
There's the Asian American Journalists Association held their convention here. It was like a couple years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
So, and they're a much smaller organization than National NABJ. So, if they can hold their convention here, I don't see why NABJ couldn't find a way to do it.
And my understanding is that they made a profit. Actually, they had it this year. Was it this year? Yeah. Was their regional or?
Yeah, because their national convention was a couple of years ago.
Right.
Here in New York.
I see some more hands. One over here.
So I have just a quick question. I wonder whether it's whether it would make sense to focus the feasibility study on Brooklyn itself rather than going broad with New York. There might be sort of enough people here in the room to say let's just shoot for Brooklyn.
Well, I mean, I think that if it were up to me,
possible?
It would be totally Brooklyn. But I don't think we should cut ourselves off from the city just yet, because you never know what kind of options may be offered. There are Marriotts in the city that may give us good deals. In Times Square, Hilton's, the Hilton on 6th Avenue and everything seems to love black conventions for some reason. So, the NAACP has their convention there all the time, so they may be willing to cut us still. So we should make sure. I'm thinking that we want to make sure that we look largely at Brooklyn because I think it would be a great location, but also keep the options open for other parts of the city too. Well, you never know. I mean,
John, right over there.
Yeah, my venue is very simple. How about the Javits Center?
Well, the other issue is that National has not been able to fill a space with enough quote-unquote vendors. So you don't have enough, you don't need that big of a space. So now, it's possible to do it in a hotel. I mean, that may change, and that, I guess, will be part of the study. But at this point, if you looked at our previous conventions, the one last year that many of us went to, the one with Prince,
where I broke my foot.
we didn't need that much space, unfortunately. So we used the space in the hotel, and that was it. So I don't think, and not using a place like the Javits Center cuts down on a huge expense because it's all union. Not that hotels are not, but you have, you're just paying more on top of more.
Right.
And that becomes a problem. So
if we find the right venue for us and everything, then we'd be able to convince nationals that, okay, fine, you'll be able to hold a convention. If we aim too high, and the cost is too much. We're looking at the cost of renting space, workers, vendors, things like that. All those things come into the cost of throwing a convention. So we have to look for ways to keep it so that it costs at least as about the same as other conventions that we've had in smaller cities. But my belief is that we can actually do that. New York is not turning conventions away. They find ways to bring people here. So I'm thinking that we can get into that mix and have New York help us bring a convention here.
How successful was it back in '95?
'95, actually, those are the days when NABJ was in the black. I mean, money was flowing back in those days, and I'm not sure who's the president back then, but I think that convention was solvent. There was 8 zillion vendors and recruiters there and everything. So they had things like, my understanding, I wasn't around, but they had things like a subway train taking people up to Harlem, for various events. I mean, it was all kinds of craziness and everything. I mean, we can be creative with the types of things that we want to do, but first thing we have to do is make it so that the National says, okay, fine, we can make a profit if we bring it to New York.
any other questions about this? Okay.
One more. We got one more question.
Sorry.
How many people do you anticipate being at that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How many people do you anticipate? Thanks. Sorry, I was trying to avoid the mic. How many people do you anticipate being at that event? that you're proposing? I mean, is it hundreds? Is it thousands?
Conventions, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. I've been to conventions where there are as many as 5,000 people. I think we had about 2,500 at the last convention.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, New York would probably be a draw, so
Yes.
we'd probably we'd probably factor in a higher number, but we'd have to look at both numbers just
Right.
because you never know, and
Right.
National's going to want
What's the NABJ?
to see both estimates.
NABJ is East Coast heavy. And another great thing is that media companies are already here, so they wouldn't have to worry about traveling. That's an expense they could cut out. And that means the saving is passed on to us.
And just how we're having a joint convention in DC, is that something that we're considering as well, having a joint convention in our pitch of hosting New York as a city?
It's absolutely a possibility that we could make a pitch
So that way we could
for
split
that.
cost as well.
Exactly. So what I would want, now that we've actually okayed this, I would want to to get a group of about 6 or 7 people that we can meet separately on conference calls and offline to actually come up with our proposal, so that when we come back in May, we can have something that that the body will agree to. So everybody, if you can see me after the meeting and everything, I'll write down names and take numbers.
Okay, do we have any other questions about anything? Because I want to give everybody time to chat after.
Is there still such a thing as the Unity conventions that used to
No.
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 I was asking about the Unity
NABJ
conventions. I don't think is this on?
It is.
That's a long-
NABJ pulled out of the Unity conventions, and actually, if you Google it, you can find articles written about it. The National pulled out because they didn't feel that a couple of reasons, but part of it was they didn't feel like the pot was being split equitably. So, but the joint convention that we're having this summer is our foray sort of back in, or their foray back into getting another group together. And actually, the event that we are spearheading, that I had just asked NAHJ if they wanted to do, so we're spearheading it in February, is like one of the first joint affinity events that we're gonna almost ever have. So it's just, it's just gonna be a pop-up mixer, but still it'll be nice to get all the groups together. There's no money involved. I mean, everybody pays their own way, so there's no splitting of the pot or anything like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't mention that. We're not hosting it, but there is a regional conference in Baltimore, and that information was sent out in the last member's email. Let me see if I could pull it up. So anybody who's a member did get that information. There is also a Facebook group for our region, and there is also, and it's also on the NABJ website. Yeah, please.
Okay, so we're Region 1. We're going to have a Region 1 conference in the city of Baltimore. It's a Saturday, April 30th. And there will also be a conference, a press conference of some sort on the previous day. April 29th. Now, this all coincides with the 1-year anniversary of the Baltimore riots and the activity that was kind of sparked by Freddie Gray's death. So it's I don't want to speak and say which city officials are going to be there, but I'm told that we're going to have people from City Hall coming to speak to the membership that goes to Baltimore. So it's a great opportunity for journalists to cover the 1-year anniversary of Freddie Gray, and I'm sure there'll be, of course, opportunities to network and to maybe build some skill.
What was that date again?
That's the 29th and the 30th of April. I'm sorry.
I'm going to hand the treasurer his chair back.
Okay, and again, if you go to the nabj.org website. It'll be on there, and then we'll get it onto our NYABJ website. But we're technically not the ones putting it on.
Yes.
Aaron, how much of an impact will the regional conference attendees feel since Baltimore is having a mayor's race?
You're asking how much impact would it have?
Current mayor is on her way out.
I don't know. I actually, I don't know how to answer that question. But the regional director, he's someone that you should direct that question to, and I can get you his information after the meeting.
Okay, I wanted to open the floor to anyone who has announcements. That's what we usually do to end the meeting. We let anybody who wants to announce something speak, and we can also take more questions. But if there's any announcements anyone wants to make, I do want to say with our Facebook page, make sure you look at visitor posts besides just the regular posts. Because there's oftentimes things that people put on, like Brianna, who's a member and she works at ABC. She posted about some job openings on our Facebook page. But you have to go to that other, the main page is just what we post, and then you have to go to visitor posting to see what everybody else is posting.
Yeah.
Julie,
Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm Cheryl Huggins Solomon, and I just wanted to let everyone know that on February 4th at the Schomburg, the National Black Leadership Commission on AIDS is going to be having the State of HIV in Black America Forum. It's free for anyone to register, and people can certainly go to nblca.org, or they can just speak with me if they're interested in attending as press.
Anybody else have an announcement or a question? Now is your opportunity. Yes.
Is there, can you find it on the website just in terms of the different volunteer opportunities for committees to see, what needs to be populated, what opportunities we have as members to participate?
There are committees. I don't know if it has been updated, but on our, can you switch to the nyabj.org? We do have committees, and I can tell you, other than Joe's committee, there's always, it's not necessarily committee, but if you have an event you want to, help put together, that's an opportunity that doesn't necessarily need a committee, or you could do it with someone else. So that you could talk to any of us about. But in terms of committees, we are going to be asking for people to join the awards committee. That'll be spearheaded by Cheryl Wills. Again, she did that 2 years ago. I don't know if anyone here was on that committee with her, but that's to put the whole awards together. And that takes a lot of work, so there's that opportunity.
I've got a list over here that I can read.
Okay.
My eyes. So you've got the awards committee that she just mentioned, the bylaw review committee that Joe talked about earlier. There's a communications committee, and that committee is responsible for helping to put out messages that we as a organization want to communicate. There is the fundraising committee. There's the media watch committee, which is important because if there's ever something that we want to speak out about we see is problematic in the media here in our market, that's the way we watch those things. There's the membership committee, which I am now chair of. So if you have any membership needs and want to pay your dues, talk to me. And I hope to have someone else help me out with that on the board as well. There's a programming committee, which helps us put on events. And then there's the student services committee. That committee generally works with the high school journalism workshop, but probably also could do something with students who are studying journalism here in New York City if there's a needs, that committee can help with that. So.
One piggyback on that. Those are all standing committees as per our bylaws, so they actually exist as in our rules. Other committees can be formed by folks just like we just did as ad hoc committees, meaning you come to meetings and everything, you make proposals, you have the body vote to form an ad hoc committee.
Julie? Me again, Brenda Williams Butts. We didn't get a chance to say this when we were on the stage, but if anyone is interested in future employment with WNYC, you should reach out to me. I have business cards. And right now we don't have a lot of positions open, but I anticipate that we will at some point. We do have freelance opportunities. And I am certainly trying to build a pipeline. So I need to know if you're interested in public media. So any future opportunities, I can reach out to you proactively, knowing that something's available. Okay? Thank you.
I see some hands in the back. Thank you.
Are we supposed to be done at 8?
No, we said 8:30, but if we
Okay.
can get out of here a little earlier, I know people are anxious to see the State
All
of
right.
the Union, but I'm.
It wasn't a rush. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't still raising my hand.
I'm very happy to end the meeting. I just don't want to. I wanted to give everybody a chance, since it's our first meeting, to say anything or to answer questions. But I have to get out of here too.
No, I'm not in a rush out of here. I'm just a new member, so I'm just trying to get familiar with how exciting this is, and I have a million questions. So I'm a publicist, but I also create content on behalf of my clients. I would love to better understand when I do have an event, what is the best way to share that? For example, we have a champagne crawl coming up to benefit Project Brownstone, which is a Harlem organization. Sorry, am I interrupting? So my question is, I would just be open to sort of guidance on what is the best place and the best way and context to present something like that. I want to be very sensitive to, obviously, public relations and content, production is very different than journalism. So I welcome, if you guys see me on your Facebook page and you're like, what is Kashana posting? Loving nudges, because I know that there's a big difference.
Well, the way we've had our Facebook page, it's a like page, it's not a group. So right now, only the board can post on the front page, but then everybody else can post, and it's on that secondary page. So for those of you who understand Facebook, it's on that secondary page, and people are just posting anything and everything. Members, actual paid members, of which you are, have the opportunity to ask us to send out information in the membership email, so that we will do that for you as well. But I do agree with you that things have to sort of make sense to what we do. But then we're journalists, we do everything. I mean, we cover everything. There's always a story there somewhere. As long as it's just not giving someone free publicity for no reason, there's always a story there. So feel free to contact. Now, Aaron sends out the membership emails. That used to be my job when I was VP. It's split between the two VPs. Right now, that other position is open, but once that's filled, there'll be two people sending out. But you could contact him or me if you have any questions, and since you know me, we know each other personally, we can talk about this.
And the best way to contact me is just membership@nyabj.org.
No problem.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amor, and besides the many things that I do, I am working with Fashion Week Brooklyn this year. I don't know if you guys have heard of Fashion Week Brooklyn, but it's been going on for 10 years. And if there's anyone here that wants to cover or attend, and Alexander Wang is supposed to be doing something with us this year. So if you're interested in covering or attending, you can come see me and I can, give you my information. And it's going to be in May, so I'll say it again, throughout the Yeah. Okay. So, just to save the date. Yes, it's May 1st to the 8th, and it's fashionweekbrooklyn.com.
When and where can we see? I came in late and I didn't see the whole discussion today. Where will it be posted and when?
Well, we've live webcasted it, and we then now have to go in and actually then repost it. And when we do that, it'll be on our nyabj.org website. That website is pretty, I mean, I know we use Facebook a lot because it's just so simple, but we do have a really nice, comprehensive website that, unlike other chapters, we don't pay people, we maintain it ourselves. So that's a really great resource. And it's also, Brandon's going to be doing a lot of that work with Melissa, but if anybody is very web savvy, it's just WordPress. If anybody wants to sort of help them out, that would be great. So you want to help out, or you have so see one of us afterwards. So because it's just WordPress, so simple. But it's a really great resource, and we want, we like Facebook, but Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg's thing. We want to use our thing too.
Julie, I have one last thing. Some of you arrived later. I invited you all personally to our MLK event. I'm going to focus on one. We have two, one this Thursday, but the bigger event is at the Apollo Theater on Sunday. We have over 4,000 RSVPs. If you want to attend, don't go on your own because you may not get in unless you arrive early. But you know me. I can put you on my list. So if you want to attend, you should do that through me. It's a very popular event, and it's going to be the best ever, okay? Just want to make sure you guys know that.
So I want to say thank you to Brenda, because she has been just amazing to us, to bring us into this space, to give us everything. The team that she has working with us is just amazing. Everything from helping us get our first ever webcast to doing all of this, the food, the drinks, just the wonderful talk from New York Public Radio. So thank you so much for putting this together for us. And I think with that we'll end it, and everybody can talk but doors are closing at 9 p.m., which means everybody needs to leave just before 9 so we can close the doors. Thanks, everybody.